proper safety in numbers, it's just going to be isolated incidents of people being carted off to the gulag.
Well, they had it. They had exactly the same dynamic we had now. That's why the patriot movement that you see on the internet, a lot of them are calling themselves 3%ers. What does that mean? It means that in the colonial United States, in that era right before the Revolutionary War, only 3% of the populace was on board with fighting a war against the crown and establishing independence. Only 3%. And then beyond that, they break it into thirds. There was a third of the people who were in the colonies who wanted nothing to do with that. They wanted to stay under the crown. A third were just kind of indifferent and would go whichever way the wind blew. And a third were kind of sympathetic to the revolutionary spirit against getting away from England, but they weren't all in enough that they were willing to fight in a war. There was only 3% of the people who were willing to sign on with Jefferson and Washington and the rest of those guys. So it's very, very similar today in terms of the number of people who are actually on board with any of this. And if you think about it, in terms of numbers and in terms of lack of communication, in terms of the massive strength of the British Army and naval fleet, I mean, what they were going up against was just incredible. And again, I can't overemphasize this enough. Those guys had no ability to contact and be in communication with each other in real time. Stop and just think about that for a few minutes and then realize the monumental struggle and the odds that they were up against.
Yeah, they were going on faith.
They came out the other side of it.
Right, they were going on faith that when they showed up at the big posse, that there were other posse members there.
Yeah, every time they deployed, it was just a complete leap of faith. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, but also when they left, you talk about they were family men, but when they left a family intact behind. The proposition was that they might not return. With a tax revolt, everybody's going to war. The family and the children. There's nothing to be left behind. It all gets confiscated. So it's a little dissimilar.
My point is that if enough people do it, they can't put everybody in prison. They can't seize everybody's stuff. Now, yeah, you're absolutely right. If it's just me running off the Higgins boat onto Omaha Beach all by myself, then yes, you're absolutely right. In earthly terms, all I am is machine gun fodder for the Nazi that's up on the bluff. No question. However, from where I'm coming from, even if that's the case, I'm probably going to be the only truly free person that you know, because the definition of freedom is when you are in a place where you cannot be coerced into turning your back on God. That is freedom. Freedom isn't having the license to go and do whatever you want. Freedom is when nobody can do anything to you. And that's where I am. There is nothing that the state can do to me. They can take all of my stuff. I am prepared to spend the rest of my natural life in prison. I'm prepared to even be executed, potentially at some point. No problem. I cannot be coerced into turning my back on God. That is why people like me are the ultimate danger to not just this state, but any satanic totalitarian system. Because I cannot be controlled. There's nothing that they can do to me that will make me bend my knee to them and comply with their evil. That's why people like me are so dangerous. That's why people like me throughout history have been potentially so powerful as well. That's why a relatively small group of people was able to completely overthrow the Roman Empire and convert the Roman Empire to Christianity in less than 300 years. Because those people could not be coerced. That is freedom.
This movement that you're involved in, was it primarily the coercion of the government on the Catholic Church, or was it John Corzine that began this, or?
It started with Corzine. When I saw that the rule of law was dead, then the state at that point becomes completely illegitimate and illicit. There is no justice. Therefore, I can no longer in any way support this state. So it started with that, and that was right at a year ago. That was, I mean, I shut my brokerage firm down on the 16th of November. So it was right at a year ago. And then just a few weeks later in January, here comes the Obama HHS mandate. Everybody has to pay for abortion. Everybody has to pay for contraception. And that was just like, okay, I totally know now that I 105% have done the right thing. Okay, you think the MF Global crap, you think losing the rule of law and all that is enough to declare a tax strike and bring down this government? Okay, we've just totally shredded the First Amendment, and these people are now overt antichrists who are mandating a cult of child sacrifice. They're now saying you have to bend your knee to us, and you have to betray Christ. The free exercise clause is shredded. The Constitution is no longer enforced, and this government is now explicitly acting as an antichrist. Not the capital T antichrist, but it is an antichrist. There is no way I'm going to pay any more taxes into this mess. So it was just, the HHS mandate just totally confirmed what I already knew a few weeks earlier.
And this is why you're free, because I have the feeling that if for some reason you hit lotto tomorrow, you would still not pay these taxes in your name. And I bring this up because there's a lot of people who consider you a leader of a movement, and a lot of leaders of movements are protected. And you don't want protection. When I say protection, I mean monetary protection or any. You don't want that. You've never asked for donations. You've actually eschewed it in many ways, any sort of help. So, are you martyring yourself in a way?
Well, I mean, I don't think of it. I don't think of it as that. I mean, it's just like the guys who fought in World War II and stuff like that. You talk to these guys and they just say, dude, I was just doing what I had to do. I mean, to me, this isn't even really a choice, you know? If you understand that the end game here is eternity in heaven or eternity in hell, and that if you bend your knee to this government, you're nailing Christ to the cross. Dude, this isn't even a decision. And however it ends up is however it ends up. But it's just like all the early martyrs in the church. And this is a great point because, you know, the political system of Islam has corrupted the word martyrdom. What those idiots are doing isn't martyrdom. These suicide bombing attacks and all that crap, that's not martyrdom. Martyrdom is when you get greased by somebody else. Almost always, it's usually the state. That's how it's ended up throughout history, is when you get greased by the state just because you refuse to turn your back on God. That's not what these Musloids are doing. These Musloids, they're just going and murdering people and committing suicide in the process just to get it accomplished. That's not martyrdom. Martyrdom isn't committing suicide. It's just saying, I can't be coerced, and you can kill me, you can put me in prison, you can do whatever you want, but I can't be coerced. It's a completely different concept. And I wish we would stop using the word martyr with regards to Islam, because the two concepts have nothing to do with each other whatsoever.
Well, the one thing I think you're getting absolutely right is that if you are going to be emblematic of this